Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, and thanks so much. Oh my goodness. This is a telephone. And I am coming to you live from our basement here in Fairport, New York. And today is Storytime Live with MKD. It is our 36th time coming from our home to yours, sending you lots of love. Mr. Davis is on the camera, and I'm here with you. Today is a very special day, and today is the second anniversary that my dad, Edward, has passed and is in heaven. And you know, sometimes it brings you some memories. Here is a picture of my dad in the middle and me on one side and my brother on the other. Oh, you know, today I was sitting outside thinking about story time, and I was looking at the trees, and I remember when I was a little boy, girl, gal, girl, boy, fella, and I would get a little bit anxious, which means nervous or unsettled, and my mother would say, "Go outside, Eddie, and go look up at the trees. Follow your dreams, and look at the trees. Always look up to the sky. And when the leaves are fluttering like this, think of that as your dreams saying hello to you." And you know, I thought to myself that in a way that was like Mom and Dad saying hi from heaven. And you know, then I thought to myself, what would be a good book for today? Well, this particular book was written by Jael Ealey Richardson. Jael Ealey Richardson. And it's about her dad, and it's his story. And I thought this would be a good one. It's called The Stone Thrower. But before we do that, you know what I've got to do? I forgot. Mr. Davis is saying, you forgot to smile, to sing your song. So let's get started with a little bit of smiling. Wherever you may go, however near or far, just hold on to your dreams you reach for in the stars, or maybe in the tree. Your dreams are yours alone. No matter what you'll be, there's one thing you can share. It's easy, can't you see? Ba-dum-bum-bum. Your gift is your smile to wear from ear to ear. Your gift is your smile, it's yours throughout the year. So when you see a sad or grumpy face, you know just what to do. Give your smile to others. It works for me and you, that's right. Give your smile to others, and today is a wonderful day to give your smile away. Now here we go again. Jael Ealey Richardson. I always want to say early. It's called The Stone Thrower. And she wrote it about her dad. Here we go. I always have to thank our daughter, Melissa. She is a children's librarian, and she helps me pick out these books. This is a story that happened a long time ago in a place that's far away, unless, of course, you happen to be from a small town in Ohio called Portsmouth. It's a story about a kid who lived in hard times, a kid who had a big dream that seemed almost impossible. And there he is. See him crossing the road? Beautiful illustrations by Matt James. Chuck Ealey was born in Portsmouth, Ohio in 1950. Back then, there were separate schools and separate restrooms and separate neighborhoods for black people because some Americans didn't believe that all people were equal, regardless of their skin color. And there he was being born with his mama. And there's the city, or the hospitals. Chuck grew up in the North End, a neighborhood that was separated from the rest of the town by a set of long, stony railroad tracks. The buildings in the North End were run down, and there was nowhere to swim when the weather got hot, because the pool was on the other side of the train tracks. See, they're swimming in the pool over here. He's having fun with the fire hydrant water. Chuck's mother had dropped out of school when she was very young. She had to work hard to raise her son all by herself. She worked long hours, and she was paid very little. And there she is. He's going to school, and she's coming back and forth at night because she had to work so much. She wanted things to be different for Chuck. Those coal trains that come through, they don't stop here, she said. They don't stop until they get where they're going. I want you to be just like that. Do you remember where you're going, son? Chuck smiled at her with a big, broad grin. I'm going to get out of the North End and get my education. She smiled and squeezed him tightly. That's right, she said. Looking out the window at the trains and dreaming about where to go in life. When Chuck came home from school one day, he felt his tummy rumbling. He couldn't remember the last time he had eaten. The only thing he found in the cupboard was a wheat bar. He chewed and he chomped, but it tasted like twigs. It felt thin and dry in his throat. Worst of all, it still left him hungry. How could he get out of the North End if they didn't even have enough money for food? Oh my goodness. It's his stomach with just wheat. On a crisp fall day, Chuck walked towards the train tracks. He scuffed his shoes against the pavement as the wind whispered gently as leaves tumbled and danced and cracked beneath his footsteps. He could almost hear it. Just then, Chuck heard a long, thin whistle in the distance. The ground began to rumble and the train track shook. The stones along the tracks jumped and bounced like hot kernels of popcorn. Thick gray clouds huffed and puffed from the smokestacks of the train as it chugged down the railroad tracks towards him. Oh, it's a breezy day. What's going to happen next? Went the train. It went as the dark coal cars crawled along the tracks like a trail of black ants, each one marked N and W for Norfolk and Western. Suddenly, Chuck had an idea. He selected a stone from the side of the tracks and rubbed it between his fingers. It felt rough, like sandpaper. He tossed it in the air and then caught it. Perfect, he said. There's the train. And he's got that stone. As the train charged towards him, Chuck fixed his eyes on the N on one of the coal cars. As the train passed and the wind whooshed against him, Chuck pulled back his arm and threw the stone as hard as he could. Thud. He missed. He picked up another stone and tried again. Thud. He's missing. He's trying to hit that N. As the last car chugged towards him, Chuck narrowed his eyes so he could see the N more clearly. He shifted back and forth on his toes, and he waited. He threw and watched the stone soar. Bang! Chuck smiled and raised his hands in victory. He did it! He hit the N. He practiced and focused. After that day, Chuck often went back to the train tracks. Eventually, he learned to throw the stones just right, so that when the train was going by and the wind rushed against him, he could always hit his target. Day after day, he's practicing. At school and at football practice, Chuck did the same thing. When he learned new things and when he had to do the same thing over and over, he thought about standing by the railroad tracks, throwing stones again and again until he got it. One day, his coach asked him to do something important, something that required a kid with determination and focus. Chuck's coach wanted him to play quarterback. He wanted him to throw the ball and lead the team on the field. Some people didn't think boys like Chuck were smart enough to play quarterback. But Chuck's coach believed in him, and so did his teammates. But it wasn't easy. See, even in school, he does things over and over and over and practices. Practice makes perfect, or at least makes better. And his team believed in him, and so did the coach. At a game against the rival school, Chuck played a team that was lean and mean. The players called him names, and they ran at him with anger in their eyes and in their hearts. "Crush him," they cried. "Get him," they yelled. With a few seconds left on the scoreboard, Chuck's team was down by 5. The team huddled together, heads bent down, arms around each other. They didn't want to lose, but there was only time for one more play. Ooh, look at everybody cheering them on. What's going to happen? I think you know. Chuck got the ball and looked down the field as one of his teammates started to sprint towards the end zone. A player on the opposing team rushed towards Chuck, quick and steady, hungry for the football, hungry for a tackle. Chuck waited, his feet tiptoeing on the soft grass as the defenseman raced closer and closer. Chuck thought about those days at the railroad tracks. The rush of the train, the feel of the wind, the rumble of the earth underneath him. He narrowed his eyes so that all he could see was his teammate running faster and faster. Ooh, it's exciting. Chuck threw the ball, and it soared through the air. It spiraled down the field, floating and spinning. Everyone waited. Everyone watched as the ball dropped right into the hands of Chuck's teammate as he stepped into the end zone. Chuck smiled and raised his arm. Touchdown! Victory! How about that? All of that practice helped him in the football game. Now, I'm going to read you something else. Chuck Ealey, this guy, won every game as the quarterback at Notre Dame High School. 27 wins in total. He received a scholarship to the University of Toledo, and he won every game there too. 35 more wins and a college degree. The best of all his victories. By 1971, he had won more games than any other quarterback in college football history. It's an unbeatable story that amazes me, even though I've heard it all before, because Chuck Ealey happens to be my father, the author's father. But even though he was undefeated, my father could never play professional football in America. The National Football League didn't believe that he could be a great quarterback because of the color of his skin. So my father moved to Canada to play quarterback in the Canadian Football League. He led the Hamilton Tiger Cats to the championship, the Grey Cup, in his very first year. He was named the game's most valuable player and the CFL's Rookie of the Year, the best new player in the league. He played for 6 more years before he retired from the sport that changed his life and hers forever. Isn't that an amazing story? Now, you know, when I was a little boy, girl, gal, girl, boy, fella, I remember how my father, he was a strong, strong man. He was very hardworking, and he was very determined. And I was signed up to play baseball, and I wasn't very good at it, but Dad had me practice, and he had me work hard. And one day, boys and girls of all ages, I was up to bat with all the bases loaded. And Dad stood behind me and coached me and said, "Keep your eye on the ball." And I hit that ball right over the fence. It was a grand slam. Well, good thing the bases were loaded because I wasn't the best runner. But you know, I didn't stick with baseball. But that lesson reminded me of this book and brings me closer to my Father. Determination, hard work, staying strong, and being humble are things that my wonderful Father taught me, and it sounds like her father taught her. So is this a great story that I wanted to share with you today? And of course, since we're talking about my dad, I think it's great that we do some dad jokes. What do you think? We'll wrap it up with some of these. What do you call a sleeping bull? A bulldozer. How do you find Will Smith when he's lost in the snow? Just look for fresh prints. Now you know, that's not a joke that everybody's going to get. You might have had to be a fan of him in the 90s. I think the 90s. I used to be indecisive, but now I'm not so sure. Well, Mr. Davis has a message for me. Hello to L.A. Grupa. La Grupa. Hello! Hello, La Grupa. I have to say, it's been a wonderful story time today, and I hope each of you have enjoyed it. Now, I hope that you make it a great day, and you remember to smile. Ooh, maybe I'll use the microphone. It'll sound better. So when you see a sad or grumpy face, you know just what to do. Give your smile to others. It works for me and you. Give your smile to others today. It's the best gift you can give away. Mwah!